KPFK Los Angeles, you're on the air with Elliot Mintz.
Hi, Roy, I've enjoyed your show on and off. I listen to it. It's wonderful. It's very different from anything else on the radio. And Mr. Mintz, I've heard your name. I'm 65. I've heard your name for many years, but I really didn't know anything about you. But this is a truly sensitive and wonderful interview here. And what prompted me to call is I volunteered in a psychiatric hospital for about 5 or 6 years. I was a previous psychiatric patient myself in the 60s. And working with the patients was absolutely a joy. And we used to sit around and do kind of a group therapy thing. They let me kind of be in charge of that sometimes. And I would cry with the patients and listen to their stories. And I remember, what came to mind right now is once there was a man there who had lost some of his family members in the Katrina crisis. Mm-hmm. He ended up in Los Angeles at the psychiatric hospital. There were people who had fought in Vietnam who ended up there, and it affected their lives. And there were just some amazing people as patients. And so this topic that is being discussed now, I really am relating to. I don't volunteer there anymore, but I had something I wanted to share too. There's a couple things, but just cut me off if I'm talking too much. I had to go to the emergency room myself because of a diabetic condition recently, and I was in there, and I brought somebody with me because having been a psychiatric patient, when you're treated in emergency rooms or wherever, there is sometimes a little stigma that is attached to you.
Yeah.
And so I remember I was in the room with another woman. We were both in our beds, and the man that was with me also had a psychiatric history, and this woman was very calm, older woman. Her name was Jane. We talked a little bit, and she just wanted to go home. She was there for medical reasons. As far as I knew, nothing was outstanding about her behavior. And so she wanted to go home, and she called the nurse or technician, whatever, over, and said yes, in just a moment. And then they came in, the paramedics came in, or whatever they're called, and the nurse said, take her to Hollywood Community. That's a psychiatric hospital. She wanted to go home. She was not told. She was being brought to a psychiatric hospital. She was put in one of these ambulances and brought there against her will. She was not violent. She was nothing. And that's kind of not an uncommon thing for somebody who's been in psychiatric hospitals to be. I mean, they swoop them up from the streets and they put them in these, quote, ambulances. I remember also when I was at this hospital, there was a man who was on a gurney, and they were moving him from one ambulance to another, and he was an Asian man. He looked like he could have been Filipino, and he was almost unconscious with in a stupor. I guess they had it, maybe, I don't know, on some medication or something, and they had a bib under his chin, and I was thinking, that was me. That would have been me 45 years ago. And if I hadn't, for whatever reason, gotten out of that condition, this man may never get out of that condition. Myself, I work with autistic children now, and I've been Buddhist for 46 years, and that's helped me, and I'm into 12-step program stuff. I'm sober a long time and stuff. But if I hadn't found my path, there's so many people in psychiatric hospitals because they didn't have the help to find a path. And there's so many old people in convalescent hospitals and jails right now. And it's not always the war over in Afghanistan. Only in our country, there's people locked up in these places that can't get out, who are being forced to take medicine and all kind of things, as you know, all of this. And I know you do, and
May
people need to be aware.
May I ask you a question or two?
Sure, anything.
And call me Elliot, not Mr. Mintz.
Okay, Elliot.
My father was Mr. Mintz.
Okay, Elliot.
You're anonymous. You're on the radio, but I just want to refer to you by a name. So you either use your first name or we'll just call you Jane, whatever you prefer.
Well, you can use my Hebrew name. It's Bela, and my name is Barbara Robin.
You gave out your entire name, and I was
No, that's my middle name, Robin.
Okay, I'm just going to call you Robin, okay?
Okay, that's good.
Because I just want to ask you some extremely personal questions.
Oh, thank you so much.
You don't have to answer them. Be aware of the fact we're on the radio. It's streamed around the world, you know.
Oh, yes.
Just be conscious of that, you know.
Okay.
When you began your presentation, and I hear and agree with everything that you said that initially you were a psychiatric patient.
Yes.
What were you diagnosed as?
I was bipolar, but to the extreme. I remember once I was sitting, when I was about 17, I was sitting on the lawn at Camarillo State Hospital, and a young man came over to me, and I thought, gee, he's kind of cute. I thought to myself, and he said, you know, of everybody here in this hospital, I feel the sorriest for you. I'll never forget that. But you could just look at me and not like today look at me and think, that's an older woman who's kind of cute. You would look at me and see that I was, quote, one of those, I hate this word, vegetables, you know. I mean, I just couldn't talk and make sense. I had made guttural sounds for a long time. I had to learn how to talk again. But I saw something on the Oprah Winfrey Show recently, and I know I'm taking a lot of time. I saw something where there was a woman who was a neurosurgeon who had a stroke, and she was lost everything, her mind, her ability to be a neurosurgeon. She ended up in a convalescent hospital. But her mother kept going to her in this hospital and laying down with her and touching her and caring for her and other people. And she developed a sense of when people were harmless coming toward her, she would welcome them. But when people were going to do her harm, she could sense it because she was in a condition where words meant nothing to her. And she developed, and this was on the Oprah Winfrey Show a few years ago, and she became a famous artist, regained all of her cognitive abilities, became a very different kind of genius or person, artist, than a surgeon. But there's always hope for all of us. And
excuse me.
Yes.
Back to you, Robin.
Yes.
When you were diagnosed with extreme bipolar,
mm-hmm.
and you have described yourself a few minutes ago as somebody who is just making sounds.
All right. That's what my best friend told me.
And you were, I presume, hospitalized or being held against your will?
Oh, yes. I was given shock treatment against my will when I was 17. And it was a terrible experience. I still remember it.
When there must have come a moment where the powers that be said, you know,
yeah.
Robin's okay now. Robin can re-enter society and not create a danger to her or to anybody else. There had to have been that, or else we would be having this conversation, in a hospital.
Yeah, right.
My question to you, it's the question of the night. You can answer it in as much detail or as little as you choose.
Thank you.
What happened? How were you able to break through that which had trapped you?
Well, I'll tell you. First, in this way, I remember first a woman, I think she was a lesbian. I'm not sure. She was an older woman, and she always wore black pants and had really short hair. She worked there. She was a therapist or something, and she said to me once, she says, Barbara, you have to just take a step into reality. You have to come into reality. I remember she said that, and I'm not promoting this at all, but I became Buddhist when I was 18, and there's a crazy organization connected with it that it doesn't matter. I'm not at all supportive of that, but there was a prayer that I've done for 46 years that slowly, little by little, has helped me to regain a sense of reality, helped me to be able to work, maintain an apartment, drive, and friends and everything. And that has helped me. Also, I do take medication. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to recover to the point I am. I do take medication. I don't promote that either for anybody.
I understand you're not promoting the medication or the prayer.
Yeah.
But I would be curious as to what the Buddhist prayer is.
It's the one that when people hear about it, they go, "Oh my goodness, one of those." It's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and I don't at this point have anything to do with an organized thing that's going on with this 750-year-old prayer. But I've been to Japan, and it's helped me.
It is, for those who are listening to us, it is a prayer that is used as a chant or a mantra from a Buddhist sect called Nichiren Shoshu Buddhists.
Yes.
And the chant is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
And we are speaking to a woman.
Yes.
Who was confined to a psychiatric hospital, diagnosed with extreme bipolar condition. You can look that up. And in answer to my question about what got her through to the other side, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and for sharing that with us tonight, I just want to say thank you, Robin, and we wish you well.
Thank you, and I really have enjoyed meeting you, listening to you on the radio tonight and meeting you, and thank you. And I would like to end my little spiel by saying I did hear Alan Watts' a tape of Alan Watts on Roy's show once, and I remember he said something, Alan Watts, he said, the thing that is more frightening to us than violence is intimacy, and that is something I experienced with you tonight and with Roy many times listening to his show, that intimate experience that is so seldom experienced in the world. The poor young people today have probably very little of it in their lives, at least in a social way. So thank you for listening, sir.
Good night now.
Okay, good night.
Thank you for calling.